Violence, mankind's favorite method when it comes to resolving conflict. Violence. But what if I told you that mankind isn't the only mammal that delights in the tried and true method of bashing someone's skull in to win an argument? Because as it turns out, our closest relatives aren't so different from us after all, and would also dabble in the sacred arts of brutal violence. And who are these close relatives of us? It's chimps. You saw the thumbnail, so yeah, it's chimpanzees. But I hear you say, but chimpanzees are the funny animals, no way they can commit acts of extreme violence. Which yeah, they do seem pretty harmless, but I have to remind you that a chimpanzee will literally rip your face off and take a shit down your throat if you look at it funny. Okay, I was exaggerating, but you get the point. These pre-alpha humans will still fuck you up. And with all that said, let me tell you about the chimpanzee war of Gombe National Park, which was a violent conflict between two communities of chimpanzees. Okay, but I have to be honest with you, I wouldn't really call this a war. It was more of a one-sided massacre really. The wiki article calls it a war, but you wouldn't really call a group of toddlers defending themselves from a pack of hyenas a war now, would you? So just to give you a background of this whole war, the Gombe National Park has a group of chimps called the Kasakela community, but over a period of time some of the chimpanzees eventually left and headed to the southern side of the region. The chimps who left were then named the Kahama community, and they were led by two chimps called Hugh and Charlie, and in total they numbered about 16 with 6 males and 3 females that can actually defend themselves, because the other 7 chimps in the Kahama community are probably still young, while the Kasakela community has a total of 20 chimpanzees that can fight. Now I'm pretty sure you can already see where this is headed. So basically the main cause of the war was territory, which is just really human-like in that aspect. Next thing you know, chimpanzees are gonna be starting a war over their beliefs in a higher power. Cool, now for the actual war. The war was started when a chimp named Gary harmlessly ate some tree sap a bit too harmlessly. So when a group of Kasakelians saw him, they were like, "Hold on fellas, I think that stinking Kahaman is trespassing on our borders." "Well, it's just eating, I didn't see a problem with that." "Well, I don't like it. Seeing that filthy Kahaman stinking up the place with his shit build bothers me. Walking up here and eating our tree sap, and besides, I don't even think he has the strength stat to carry that. Fucking poser." So is that like an order to kill him? "Yeah, that charity is in cunt what one-handing a hammer is like." The fuck? The chimps who were responsible for speedrunning their own extinction then celebrated by screeching like banshees, banging sticks and rocks, and throwing shit. Which is basically how most VTuber fans react whenever their favorite streamer says something even remotely sexual.
"Ah, she said sex, that sounds like sex. Me go bing bang mode now."
The Kasakelians, after desecrating a corpse, proceeded to kill 2 more Kahamans, who were named Dead and Cute. And the next one to bite the dust was Goliath, who was pretty neutral about the whole war and was on pretty friendly relations with the Kasakela chimps and was like,
"Okay, but seriously guys, I think we might be a bit too low on the evolutionary spectrum to be starting wars already. Maybe we should develop more brain folds before starting guerrilla warfare?"
But the Kasakela chimps were out for blood and put a new concave surface in his skull. You know, it's a good thing that the Kasakela chimps weren't in charge of Germany in World War II, because Switzerland would have been fucking carbonized the moment they declared neutrality. But moving on, even after half of their males were killed, the Kahama community still didn't surrender. Well, they can't really surrender because they're fucking chimps, they're pretty dumb. And even if they could, the Kasakela death squad would have still killed them either way, which is precisely what happened to the remaining Kahamans. After the fall of Goliath, only 3 male chimps were left, and they were Charlie, Snip, and Willy Wally, who had polio and was crippled. And of course, the first one to die among the remaining few was not the cripple, it was Charlie. So unfortunately for Willy Wally, he'll have to settle for the Paralympics this year if he wants to at least get a standing in anything, because he actually survived. But actually the crippled chimpanzee manages to survive a death squad due to divine intervention, while humans will just die if they inhale some shitty folded proteins. really tells you who the real sons of God really is. But anyways, the other chimpanzee Snip was actually able to survive for a whole year with the help of a young white branch. But unfortunately for him, he shifted into a banana tree, which alerted the Casacalian death squad after one of their trees didn't grow any delectable golden rods. With all the Kahaman males disappearing from the gene pool, the Casacalians basically had free reign over the remaining chimps in the Kahama community. And to set an example, the Casacalians killed one of the female chimpanzees. But I guess this worked a bit too well since 2 chimpanzees were labeled as missing in the wiki page, so they probably ran away. And as for the remaining 3 chimps, they were beaten and taken as prisoners of war by the Casacalians, a rare showing of mercy by the Casacalians. Now if you got curious and looked at the wiki page for this topic while you were watching, you might have seen something pretty peculiar. And yeah, I'm talking about the casualties in the page having enslaved on it. And yes, the unlucky chimpanzees that got a playthrough of the human experience of being a Jew in ancient Egypt were the 3 chimps that got pounded. I didn't know how these pre-alpha humans managed to enslave 3 of their own species, but I guess inventing slavery is just something that everybody in civilization will always do. And with that, it brings us to the end of the Gombe Chimpanzee War between the Kahama and Kasakala community, with the Kasakalians taking over the Kahaman's territory. And so, what was the main point of this story exactly? To tell you that no matter how great a war between people may be, a feud between great apes will always be greater. But oh well, that's all done into Wikipedia, and see ya!